Shaina.
I'm Karsyn.
And we're going to be showing you the performance criteria for a handstand. First, Karsyn is going to put her hands over her head and lean her leg forward. Next, we're going to put the leaning leg is going to take a step forward and the back leg is going to come off the ground. Third, her trunk is going to flex, and when the hands are on the floor, the foot comes on the ground to push the lower body up. And then,
Catch my feet and hold them.
for number 5, this following leg is going to swing behind and then followed by the other leg. She's going to keep her core tight, straighten her legs, and point her toes. And now she's going to do it all together. Now we're going to do the performance criteria for a non-proficient handstand. Notice how she's beginning with her arms by her side. Instead, they should be in the air by her face. Now notice how she didn't kick up all the way into the air and she didn't keep her core tight.
Pretend both my legs are up.
This is non-proficient because they are not all the way up like they should be. Non-proficient, not good. This is another example of a non-proficient handstand. Her arms are still starting at her sides and they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be in the air by her face. Now she's going to kick up correctly, but notice how she's arching her back and bending her arms, which is not correct or safe and could end up in injury.
Like so.
Non-proficient. Okay, this is our third example of a non-proficient handstand. Notice how her arms are by the sides of her face, which is correct, but she's not stepping at all. Her feet are together. Incorrect. Now she's trying to launch herself into it without stepping and bending her legs up. Incorrect. Non-proficient.
All right, now we're going to be talking about the constraints, individual and environmental, of a proficient handstand. So an individual structural constraint would be long legs, as I have long legs. It is a little bit more challenging for me to do a handstand as it would be for someone who is 4'11". Long legs would be difficult because whenever you are stepping and launching your legs over your head, long legs would be a little bit more challenging to kick up. You'd have to use a little bit more power and momentum in order to get those legs in line with your shoulders and above your head. And you'd have to keep that core extra tight in order to complete a proficient handstand. An individual functional constraint would be fear. Simply being scared of going upside down, flipping, anything of that nature would make it a little bit more challenging to do a handstand, and your handstand might not be as proficient because you wouldn't trust yourself or other things around you.
Now we're going to be talking about environmental physical. Environmental physical constraint would be an uneven ground. Obviously a handstand is going to be harder to do like on top of a hill than a flat surface like this floor. And then we have environmental socio-cultural, which is just like socially in our society, like it's more normal or said to be normal for like girls to cheer and tumble than boys, which isn't correct. And then a task constraint is just like the amount of space you have to do the handstand. Obviously it's going to be harder to complete the task of a handstand if you don't have enough space to like kick and do all the proficient things that you should do.
Now, moving locations a little bit, we're going to be working on improvement plans to improve the proficiency of a handstand. So, first we're going to begin with wall stands, which are handstands against a wall. All you need for this is a flat wall. As you can see, she's following through all the proficient steps of a handstand, and she's going to straighten her legs, squeeze that belly, and just lean against the wall to practice the steps of a handstand. proficient handstand is doing a handstand with a spotter. All you need for this is another human being who's going to help you stay balanced in the handstand. As you can see, she's starting with her arms above her head, stepping, kicking up, and a spotter is kind of more beneficial because the spotter can help you, give you pointers while you're doing your handstand, as in keeping your stomach tight, pointing your toes, keeping your legs straight. But the spotter can progressively step away, use a little bit more stability in their arms to keep those legs straight, stuff like that.
And now we're going to be talking about the performance criteria of a pickleball serve. So Karsyn's going to start facing the side, and she's going to step forward with her closest foot to the net. This is our net. Now, as she's stepping, she's going to throw the ball up, and her arm moves in an upward arc, and then she's going to strike the ball. So all this happens together. Step, throw, and swing all happens kind of with each other.
That was not proficient.
Yes. And then she's going to contact the ball above her waist while stepping and swinging through. And she's going to follow through all the way with her swing, and her serve should be made diagonal across the court. So if she's like on this side of the court, her serve should land in this square. Okay, now this is our non-proficient performance criteria for when you're not doing it correctly. Okay, now you see she's not facing the side, she's facing directly forward, and she did not step. Notice how she did not step. Okay? And she didn't serve diagonally across the court, she served straight forward to her opponent in front of her instead of diagonally. This is another example of a non-proficient performance criteria for a pickleball serve.
My hips are still straight, they're not facing sideways.
And she's hitting below the waist, so this way it makes it harder to hit above the net because you're hitting so far below that the net's going to catch it and it's not going to go over.
And again,
Non-proficient.
it's not serving diagonally across the court, it was going straight.
Yes. Talking about the constraints of pickleball serve. First of all, we have individual structural constraint. Obviously, being shorter, if you have to go at a longer stride and hit the ball harder to get it over the net. And then for individual functional motivation, if you keep hitting it and not getting over the net and you're like, oh, I give up, I don't want to do this anymore, obviously you're not going to achieve the performance criteria for a proficient serve.
And for environmental physical constraint, we have the wind blowing. Obviously, if you throw the ball in the air and the wind takes the ball, it's going to be harder to concentrate on swinging and striking the ball at the same time if the wind took the ball away. Or when you hit the ball and you're hitting it diagonally across the court, the wind can take it even farther. And then in environmental socio-cultural constraint would be that girls don't play sports like baseball, basketball. You usually think of guys playing sports of that nature, and typically not girls. It's all a stereotype. And then a task constraint would be the amount of space you have, or if there's not a court available. For example, right now we are struggling with a task constraint because we don't have a net, and we have the space to serve, but we don't have a net or anything of that nature like the court itself. Now we are going to work on improvement plans involving a proficient pickleball serve. So, first you can swing the pickleball paddle without the ball to take away the coordination struggles that you are having. As Shaina is showing you, she is working on throwing the ball in the air, the ball, and working on swinging, and she's making the motion. She's following through with the swing, which is something very important in the pickleball swing.
Whooping!
Another improvement plan for proficient pickleball serve would be hitting the ball to a wall or a hard surface without the ball returning to you, having to play a game. This will ultimately take away the pressure of having to serve and then get set for the ball returning. So, as Shaina is showing, there's no pressure of her having to hit the ball again once she gets it back, and it's just an easy practice and improvement plan to make your pickleball serve better. And it's fun.